You're muted.
We
You're
are
muted.
muted, and I didn't hit the mute, and now I'm back. But I think I still. Can
I
you hear
got you.
me?
Yeah, I
I
got you
can't
now.
hear you. Oh
Um,
man, I messed up already. Let's see. Hold on. Hold on.
you can't hear me?
All right, talk.
Hello. Can you
Oh man, we're back. My headphones just died.
Oh
Isn't
no.
that beautiful? Welcome to Web3. Welcome to technology, where things, work when they want to work, and when you need them to work, well, guess what? They don't work. So I'm back. We got Mr. One and Only Corey from Honeyland. Man, I last time vibed with you in GDC. Dude, you were dropping the alpha, the updates, everything's been happening, but it's actually been a couple months since then. So tell me how you're feeling. How are the vibes since then? How is Honeyland? What is going on? You're just coming off another playtest. Y'all just straight shipping. Give us the alpha.
Yeah, so GDC was actually last time we vibed. That's that up in San Francisco, and we may have done a stream or something shortly after. But that's actually where we met up, like for the first time with YGG and Gabby and Marielle and the team over there, and then moved into a playtest sometime after that in about April, and then just about 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks ago, launched part of Gap Season 10 with a whole bunch of other like elite titles. It's really really cool just to be a part of that. And so that's kind of the big thing that's going on right now. We've onboarded over 8,000 new players into Honeyland in the last like 2.5 weeks with YGG, which was like, has already exceeded our expectations. It's an 8-week program. We've seen increased activity. We've seen increased socials. We've seen, just kind of everything has started to move. I would say the first question you asked is, how am I feeling? How are the vibes? I think we're waiting. Obviously, when you have a game, the game is half of it. The community is a big part of it, but the token price becomes the product at some point when you launch a token with a game, right? The game is essentially a conduit to token value, price, access, all of that. And so the token price is, has had ups and downs over that time. It's been up over the weekend, which was kind of nice, but down kind of for a week or two straight before that. And so vibes are hopefully getting better. I'm excited to kind of see what Monday looks like now that, we did have a good weekend. But I would say it's weird. Internally, everything we look at is absolutely screaming. We love it. And everything, as you kind of look, community and token is a little bit lagging. I'm hoping those are just, that the kind of the players and the new activity are leading indicators of what is coming with the token. And then, a bunch of other things that we still talked about, Hive Clash and some other things that are kind of second half of the year, big initiatives that I think can have just wild upside for everything that we're doing.
I think it's really, really cool to hear you talking about like some of these partnerships in a different way or in a different form than a typical Web3 game developer talks about them. What do I mean by that? Typically, like the Web3 games a lot have these partnership announcements to gain social boost because they're building something. But you've actually already built something. You have a game that's live. Now you're looking at partnerships to actually bring in community members to try the game, to test the game, to play the game. It's like that evolution of life that we're finally there, because for a long time it's like, yeah, let's just do a partnership announcement in Twitter space. And I'm like, God, these are not partnership announcements. These are just like, fillers, if you really want to call them, like to put some like noise in the market with no meaning. But you're looking at it in a different way. And you're also looking at it in a different way because now your token is live and you are looking to understand how your economy works. How does the economy work with other players? How does the economy work with, broader aspects of actually ecosystem gaming, right? Because like there's ecosystem gaming and then there's the bigger world. What's your thought process right now behind all of it? Like, what are you looking more in depth? Is it like a lot of the feedback from the partnerships? Is it looking for, hey, how do I keep retaining them? How do I move on to other partnerships and retain like the first two guys that I partnered with? Talk to us about that mindset.
Yeah, I think my mindset at this point, and you're right, there's a lot of, and I've been doing this for 3.5 years now. And so it became, early on, it was very popular to do these collabs or you'll remember this word that we haven't heard in probably 12 months, but interoperability was like the word that you would hear, right? That was kind of like everybody loved the art of the NFTs was bullshit. Everybody loved the promise of interoperability. But the truth is I'm trying to build my own gaming ecosystem. I'm not trying to build somebody else's, right? And I do think that there's a rising tide raises all boats. And so we really want Web3 gaming to be big. And at that point, then games can start kind of trying to grab players and build kind of their own communities. And so collabs are an easy way, as you mentioned, to kind of look busy and look active. But there are a lot of work that go into them and very little long-term lift. They're generally rewarded or incentivized. And I think the realization that I've had probably over the last 12 months is, after having a game live for a full year and then now a whole second year, is that the mechanics of Web3 gaming, or I should say the expectations of Web3 gaming players are very challenging to the actual success of Web3 gaming. Very few people want to go. I mean, here's a really good example. Our token is down probably 97% from where it was 1 year ago today. But if you were to look at the two products are wildly different in terms of the game is nowhere near what it was a year ago. It is so much better. Expanded universes. It's got season passes. We have centralized exchange listings. We have in-game raffles. We have a ton more partnerships. We have, like, you just look at every single thing is significantly better today than it was 12 months ago, yet the token is down 97%, right? The token is the product at some point, and that becomes the big challenge, is that everybody tells you they want a beautiful Web3 game. And as soon as you launch a token, they don't care about how good the game is. They care about how valuable the token is and how much of it they can earn. And ultimately, this becomes a big challenge, like a sustainability challenge for Web3 gaming in general. And this is where Hive Clash, to me, was something that I think as a thesis, I'm really excited to try, because it starts to put a different end on a play and earn game. It's not just play and earn, and then the kind of the natural end is sell. It's play and earn to then go do something else. It unlocks a new experience. And if you don't want to go through the grind of Honeyland to earn those assets over time, you can buy them from the players who are. And so now you've created a real marketplace of people who are coming in, not just to do the same thing and try and earn more and then sell it again later. And it becomes one of the big challenges of Web3, which is everybody wants to extract, but trying now to put another something at the end of that you actually, that provides real value to the assets that you're earning. And so, yeah, it's, I think you're right with a lot of these collabs, or like, hey, let's just do this or that. It's a lot of work. It's a good marketing tweet and things like that. But at the end of the day, everybody's focused on building their own community. And so I think even these collabs are starting to get, they're really being done primarily by projects that are looking for a lifeline, not aggressively trying to actually get ahead, like proactively getting ahead, right? You look at, if you're Pudgy or if you're a big project like that, you have a lot more weight to actually where those collabs can matter, right? But when it's two projects that are, I mean, I'll even take us. We've done stuff with Genopets and BR1 and a lot of the games that, are in Solana games that have been here for years and have real communities. But the truth is, even those don't provide real meaningful, sustained lift for either project, unless the rewards are 100x, unless you're paying people to be there is generally what, a lot of what Web3 gaming has become. And I'm okay with that. I think we just need to understand what that is. And, if I could rewind 3.5 years ago, I think my focus would have been a little bit less on building a great web with a really, really sound economy. And it would have been a little bit more about leaning into that hype and leaning into collabs and making everything that may not actually be a big deal seem like a big deal, because that's kind of what helps the token price is that speculation and FOMO.
Yeah, I think, like, I'm glad that you mentioned if you had that magic 8 ball and like what would it be like if you had done it all over again. And I almost want to like piggyback off something before we get into that like vertical of it. Like a lot of people in this space in Web3, it's funny, your token launched how long ago? It was a couple years, right?
Yeah, about March 16th of 2023.
Yeah, 2023, right? And like I could tell you that like I have a lot of discussions with people within the space, and I'll be like, "Hey, have you tried like this such and such game?" And they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, I tried it." And I was like, "Oh, what did you think?" And they're like, "No, I think I tried it like 2.5 years ago." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I mean like, but have you tried the latest one?" And they're like, "No, I'm not going to try it again. I tried it already once." And I'm like, "Yeah, you tried a product that was 2.5 years ago. Like you probably bought in a token, but like that's not a reflective of what it is today." And they're like, "Yeah, but I already tried it." And I'm like, that's the wrong mentality. But that is the mentality in a lot of folks within crypto Twitter, that they're like, "I already tried it. I don't need to try it again." And in reality, it's like you were kind of being the play tester, right? The beta tester, the alpha tester, whatever you want to like put it. Like there's progression to all this. So you have to try the new things to understand like why you even tried it in the first place. And I think that messaging right there is something like that if somebody could figure out how to get people to try something again years later, would be probably like the magic 8 ball that is missing within this space.
Yeah, I think it's one of the challenges of building in public. First of all, building in public was a huge thing for us. It allowed me to build a true relationship with our community in a very like asynchronous way, which is really cool. Of course, we could do spaces and things like that, but I was able to like do a lot through Discord updates and YouTube updates, and the community felt like they were a part of something that was growing and building. And I think that was a huge advantage. And it's part of what I think makes Web3 really, really special. But as a builder, and as more and more teams competition heats up, it becomes a competitive disadvantage to be constantly sharing what you're doing. It allows room for FUD. I had somebody over the weekend saying, hey, you said that you were going to launch this and this and this. What happened to those? And I'm like, well, this is one of the dangers of building in public, is that Web3 evolves very, very quickly. And so one plan that I may have today, if I take new news in tomorrow about what's happening with Web3, and I'm only committed to launching that same plan regardless of new news, I think that we're in a much worse place than having the ability to pivot. Now, when one plan gets removed, another one always replaces it. There's been, if you want to rewind back to that spot, there's been 10 other things that were never announced that were launched since then. But there's this constant pivot. And I think because of that, the access that people have, they can I get tags on Telegram and all the time and stuff. And it's like, so it's just a weird relationship that community has to the project that just doesn't really exist or has never existed in my life, which I think is a huge advantage. But it also at times can become, one of the challenges to building, which is you want to constantly be building FOMO, but at some point, and having something that's next, but at some point, it locks you into an ability to kind of pivot and move and be agile. And so, or like you said, everybody wants a game now. They want it tomorrow. They want it's playtime. Let's get in. And then that first impression becomes maybe the last impression. And if we had the time to just kind of package, and I mean, you look at GTA 6, is now being pushed back to 2026. They're just waiting till they're ready to launch it, right? And everybody's going to wait and everybody's going to be patient. And when it goes live, it'll be the hugest thing ever. But they're not launching kind of a half-baked product and building with the community and collecting feedback in real time. They don't have that advantage. It's all being done internally. But the disadvantage that we experience is that, we may never get a second shot. They may come into a product that's not fully developed, or they may only look at the token price and not care about the game. And if enough people do that, the project it becomes really challenging to grow. If everybody kind of has a preconceived notion or only wants to look at the chart as the scoreboard of how good a game is.
Yeah, man, I think like you just hit so many things on the money right now with the perception and the idea of what needs to be done or how it needs to be said or the ways that we should kind of move forward. But let me ask you this now, with that all said here and done, back to the magic 8 ball, like, knowing where we are today, and knowing how much you've progressed as well of where the game is today, what are some of the strategy shifts internally going forward, right? Are you guys gonna say, like, let's just say this, right? With knowing maybe the Web3 audience and where it is, Web2, right? Going after those type of gamers, Web2 gaming and everything, ads and everything that goes into Web2 gaming to make them visible, popular, bring in and track that. Does that shift anything with the way that you've progressed or you've seen the Web3 landscape currently?
Yeah, I mean, I of course, like there's a lot that's very different. I think probably the biggest thing to me is I've stopped while I check I obsess over the token price. I stopped chasing daily activity for my strategy as a game, right? The token has 2 straight down weeks. I'm not immediately trying to pivot into something that can stop that free fall, because this is a forever token. And if you're constantly reacting to daily shifts, it becomes really challenging. In the same way that when our token has a great weekend, I'm not out there gloating about it, because I know that everybody keeps receipts. And as soon as it, has that up that turns to the down, everybody wants to throw it back. And so I stopped chasing daily charts. And then I think from a project side, I've started to think more in elevators than escalators, I think. And so for me, it's not about, hey, how do we systematically keep building one thing after the next, launch this new feature. We tried this over the last 18 months. Let's launch on centralized exchanges. And then let's get season passes in the game. And then let's get and slowly build revenues. Then let's launch a new universe. Then let's improve this feature. And so you just keep doing that slowly. and it has kind of, everything has a little bit of a bump and then kind of a regression, a little bit of a bump. And so you're not really ever getting ahead. And so for me, I've really started to, over these last 6 months, look for, again, what I would call elevators. These can be through huge partnerships, through major launches, not of like new features, but something like a Hive Clash. This could be through, brand new ecosystems. There's a number of ways that we can get there. And I'm not trying to like tip my hand or even withhold information, but just kind of going about what the thought process is of like what, what we can do. But yeah, I think my idea or the goal here is that let's not try and chase daily little things and, let people trade. People are going to trade. And so I can't stop that. We're through our advisor unlocks and our investor unlocks and a lot of those kind of like external pressures. So now it really is about our holders trading this token. And I want to do everything I can to make them happy. But in the background, I'm not looking to launch the next new feature, which is, by the way, really unpopular in Web3. Everybody wants to know, what is that single next thing? And when you're going to chase elevators, there is not a single next thing, and it doesn't make sense to tease it until it's ready, right? And so like that announcement needs to come as the announcement, not a tease. So if you're moving into, let's say we wanted to move into a new blockchain. Let's say we wanted to expand into abstract right now, which this is not alpha. I'm not saying that, right? But if we did that, I wouldn't tell people about it as I'm starting the conversations. Everything would be locked. We'd have a release date. We would have, right? And then that announcement comes at that point when it becomes a 2-week marketing period from start marketing to launch as a major shift. If I try and extend that over 3 to 4 months and bleed all of that kind of like, hey, this is what's coming and this is what's next, to appease the audience, to appease the community, and just kind of get them off of my tail immediately, it loses what the real value is. And so I know that's frustrating for the community, but I think you're going to see this as a huge shift. We've already started to see it a little bit, but you're going to see it as a huge shift in Web3 communications, is that trying to like tease things before they're ready is a short-term fix that removes a lot of the long-term value. And so for me, I'm looking for elevators over escalators right now. And that's a big shift in what I've done, because for the past 2.5 years of this game being live, it has been constantly about shipping new things every single month. And we're still shipping a ton. I just looked at our monthly recap and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot we did that and that and that. We did that collab, we did that. And it's like, this was a dull month. This is a month where everybody's going, hey, where's Corey? Why aren't we hearing, And in the background, I'm working on a lot of things that I just can't really share, because it's not a new feature into the game. It is something much bigger ultimately that I think we need to do to unlock. My goal isn't to make Honeyland 3 times bigger than it is today and bring in, and kind of take the new players from Gap, Season 10 from YGG, and then just kind of ride with that for the next 6 months. My goal is to put us in tectonic shifts again and again and again. And those don't happen every week. And that's frustrating for a community, especially when things are moving backwards. If things were slowly moving up, people don't need to hear from me. They don't care, right? And so it's a big frustration, but I shouldn't say a big frustration. It's a big challenge and struggle internally that like part of me wants to appease my emotional need to be loved by the community. And part of me wants to uphold my strategic position that I think is ultimately best for the project. And so it's challenging and frustrating, I know, internally for a lot of people, but I think the idea is trust the process. And that's the thing I always say to people. It's like, hey, I understand people get mad at me, that don't really know me, through the Telegram channel and things like that. And I'll always just 2 things. I always say, name the project that's doing this really well. Because if there's a game that you're in love with, they either raised 10 times more funds than us, or the game's not live yet, or the token's been live for a very short period of time. Meaning, within the first year, we were up 15x on our token. That was fine, right? And we launched in a difficult market. But now you're 2.5 years in, and I think that there's a cycle that ultimately new is good, old is bad. But then I think that it takes a shift that old starts to turn into reliable, right? And something that is a little bit more, that people can feel a little bit more confident in, because they see the team show up day after day after day. And so I always ask, what's the project you're comparing us to? Because if it's Star Atlas, I love Star Atlas, but number one, their game isn't live and won't be for several more years. I know they have Sage Labs and things like that. And this is, again, it's just saying we're not a fair comparison. And they've raised 10 times more money than us. So how are you holding us to a standard that's Star Atlas when, just because we're in the same ecosystem? I see that as a huge tip of the hat to us to think that we're being compared with projects that raise 10 times more money than us, right? And so I think there's that. And then the other thing I say is, what's changed? Because what I've done for this project is showed up every single day with integrity and intention. And I've been very pure and transparent about that. And I'm not the brightest guy in the world. There's not everything that I do is the right move. There's a lot of things that I would do differently if I could, that I think would make Honeyland a better project than it is today in terms of whatever token, whatever metric you want to use. But all I've done is tried things, as a project, and I've been very public and transparent about it. And if I was spending half my time on Honeyland and half my time golfing today and the token's going down, then fucking get mad at me. But when I'm showing up for 60 hours every single week still, grinding my ass to try and do everything, and I say me, this is me with a team around me. Everybody continues to show up day after day, and the results aren't good, but you can't get mad at me because the results, you can, I guess. Anybody can get mad at me for anything. But what I would say is what you should at least understand is that nothing's changed from when you bought the token to when you sold the token in terms of what I'm and my team is giving to this project, right? And so if that's the case, we've had poor results and you can be mad at the results, but we haven't rugged in any way that like we've stopped showing up. And so the product is better, the game is better, the community is better, the communication is better. Everything is significantly better than it was when you bought the token. I promise, because it's getting better every single day. It's better today than it was yesterday. And so I understand that the token price is not reflective of that, but the team continues to show up and do everything. And if we're just not a good project, I get it, but don't get mad at me for us not being a good project. We're the same project that when you bought the token. But my goal still very much is I think there's elevators in the near future that can be pretty cool.
Hey man, I'll say this. I was bullish on you before this conversation and before, bullish on Honeyland and everything. I am like 100x more bullish on you after that take just now, because again, I'm a Web2 person. I come from investment banking. I've studied many businesses that's all I ever spent. And one of the things that you're really like harping on here is a long-term game, right? It's a long-term game to what success truly is. And not many people understand that, because they keep constantly looking at the short-term announcements as the possible being the, oh my God, this is it, or the win it all. But that's not how it is. That's not how this game is even played, especially when it comes down to business. And then when it comes down to business as well, like there is hey, we have to make revenue. Hey, we have to make sure that we produce. And hey, what are the expenses and all this stuff? Like all these things that people in this space sometimes forget, that only so much can get you from a funding round, from a token launch, from all these things. And so I think that like what you just kind of harped on is like, it's a long-term game. And if you've been part of the game already this long, then you should really kind of just strap into your seatbelt, sit in the back seat, be quiet, and wait till we get to the destination, because this is a long drive. This isn't a short drive. Short success is not what you guys have been going after, although you guys have had it, but that's not what the essential of what the way your mentality is. It's like, how do you take it to the Titanic plate of the next level of Honeyland? And I think that, man, is like really, really powerful. So I mean, if a community is really watching, or anybody's watching, it's like, man, this is the type of things that for me, when I look at a founder that could talk to me about the long-term plan, I'm bullish on. Not many can in this space. I have to tell you that. I run a marketing agency, and I work with a lot of people that try to say, hey, Jorge, how can I work with you? My first 3 questions I ask on an intro call is, how many users do you need to be profitable? What's revenue look like for you? And when do we believe that we could turn revenue on? And I could tell you those 3 questions, most of the time I ask, they look at me like deer in the headlights, and they're like, oh my God, like, what do you mean? All these things. And I'm like, yeah, man, like, I don't want to work on a project if you don't tell me how we're going to make money, in the sense of being sustainable, not to say like we're trying to get rich off of something. How do we build a sustainable business? And again, when do we build that sustainable business? What will get us to that? And I think that too many projects in Web3, it's more of, hey man, let's do this token launch because we're going to be able to do this. And then like, and I'm like, yeah, man, that's just like one great part of Web3, but that shouldn't be the reason why you are almost in this space, almost in saying building this right now. You should have this plan in place of what the success looks like for the end goal, and what's the end goal come after that,
Yeah, I would say the only way that a project can get rich and a player can get rich at the same time is if there is another element in there that is being earned. So if there's utility, or if there's lifestyle conveniences, or if there's happiness, right? And I think that's the thing in games, that players are willing to say, I can spend $1 and not have to get $2 back as long as I get $2 worth of happiness back, right? And if the game is providing that, then the project can get rich cash-wise, the player can get rich happiness-wise, and there's a really cool exchange that takes place in there. I think in Web3 gaming, and that exists in Web2 gaming, that's what we see. That's why we go buy the Switch 2. That's why we go play all the game. We're not expecting to get paid by buying the Switch 2. We're expecting to get happiness back that exceeds the amount of dollars that we put forth. In Web3, happiness is moved very to the back. The only way that you get happy is by making money. And so if the player is trying to make money and the project needs to make money to sustain, and happiness is not a hidden, invisible, free element that you can inject into this formula or some other element like convenience or access or lifestyle, right? Like these types of things are these hidden elements that traditionally exist in every other industry in the world, except basically Web3 PvP token trading, where the utility and the happiness is profits. When profit is the happiness lever, it becomes at odds and it becomes very difficult to be sustainable for a long period of time. And I think that's the challenge that we're going to start to realize. And, you look at somebody like Jonah Blake, who, it has been a huge part of Web3 gaming, but also a very strong critic of Web3 gaming for a long time. And, there's a lot of what he says that I think needs to be listened to, and that he was a little bit, forecast kind of some of the challenges that are going to come. It's really cool to see him also go launch a game like Frankie Go, which, gets how many, hundreds of thousands of players, I think, in the first couple of weeks. And I'm curious to see where that goes, because this is the epitome of there is no unique gameplay to this. It is stolen from another game. It is the IP is borrowed. It's very, very simple in terms of a game loop. Like you're going through 10 days and just trying to, it's an RNG for basically 10 rolls of the dice. And yet it's getting tons of activity because there's a financial incentive in it. It is not because if there was no money tied to this, people would not be playing this game in the exact same way, right? Or some reward or some happiness. And so I think that he's really unlocked it. I'm really curious to see, can this sustain long-term? You look at something like Pump Fun, or I look at something like Magic Eden, which I think was a game back in 2021. Minting NFTs was a game. We weren't doing it for the art. We were doing it for the game, right? But there was profits that we wanted, but the game was fun enough that we were willing to even lose money to play that game, right? And so because there was a happiness that was derived from minting something cool. And so I think that's what we really need to look for at Web3 gaming moving forward, is how do we inject happiness into the equation so that there can be a financial opportunity, just like going into a casino, where money will change hands. You can win and you can lose. But at the end of the day, the EV is negative. You're not expected to make more money at a casino when you leave than when you walked in if you do this 100 times. It's just very, very challenging, right? And so, but you still do it because there's a happiness that is a hidden, secret, invisible part of the equation that you're willing to pay for that happiness. And we need to bring that into Web3 gaming. But it's a player problem too. I'm not going to put all this on poor design or project that I haven't thought ahead. Like, this is a player problem too. Players need to reset their expectations. And we first started seeing this a year ago when somebody would get an airdrop that was only worth $150 and they'd post on the timeline, "What's this bullshit?" And you're like, wait a minute, somebody just gave you $150 for free for playing a game or doing something that you asked them to do or making a tweet, and you're telling them it's not enough? What the fuck is wrong with us, right? Like, and it was at that point that it really just hit me that, like, this is going to be challenging to really, and it is a player problem as much as it is anything else. But we're all figuring this out. We're all getting, I think, better together as players. I've definitely seen reset expectations where other community members have that same feeling, where it's like, why are you ungrateful for free money? Like, you're in the wrong space if you're not happy because it wasn't enough. But so, yeah, I don't know. I guess I just spewed a lot. I don't even remember where we started there, but.
Well, it's funny because like, it's certain things, like, you're a family man as well, and my daughter would be like, "Hey, can you buy this?" And I'm like, "It's $100." I was like, "I'm not spending $100." And next thing you know, I get shilled some token, and I'm like, "Oh, quick, throw $100 in there." Oh, it's gone. And it's like, I'm like, damn, I could have, like, the way that we relate to things in real life versus the way that we relate to in crypto Twitter and in crypto is definitely something that I tell people, like, they don't realize, like, some of the things that we do here, of how much it is, in the sense, borderline gambling, right? Almost in the sense, but not really with a thought process. It's because we're chasing something, right? What are we chasing? What are we trying to get to, right? Is it financial happiness? Is it happiness with what we're doing? It's all these things, right? But I think, like, for me, it's circling back to all of it and saying to us, it's like, gaming itself right now is in a funny situation. Not just Web3 gaming itself, right? And gaming itself has not been able to also, I would say, be unique in a way, right? Grand Theft Auto 6, uh, Call of Duty just announced their game, right? These are all just constant redesigns of the same thing. It's not something that's new that's hit the market, right? It's not something that people are like, oh my God, let's go try it. Everything has been trying to remake certain things, and these guys capitalize on that, right? Like you look at most sports games, it's just keep spending more money on cards in the new FIFA. So for Web3 gaming, I think like, man, like, yeah, it's even tougher that, we're trying to sometimes at first when Web3 gaming started, it was all copycat ideas. There wasn't anything unique, right? Because we all came to this market when Web3 and we're like, hey, man, like, imagine if Grand Theft Auto had, a blockchain economy. And we were like, oh my God, imagine. But then it's like, wait, we will never be able to build what Grand Theft Auto builds, or even have enough time or the money to get to that, yet let alone the marketing spend that some of these guys have spent, right? And so, man, like when you start like looking at all these things like retrospective, and now you start looking at where we are, and you start seeing the games that are still here, like, yeah, man, I totally get more bullish on conversations like this with you, understanding what your thought process, the way you're looking at it, how much analysis have you done. I think that there's a missing aspect as well of how much research are you doing on your own market? How much research are you doing in what you're building, right? Because again, community feedback is very important. And again, implementing feedback and working with the community is great, like building in public. But at the same time, you have to make sure that, hey, this is just a certain pool you're working with. How do you get to the lake? How do you get to the ocean of fishes that you need to be able to, bring in and have everybody kind of building into what you're saying? With all this said, where you are today, tell me, do you feel it's very much different from when it was in the sense of when we first started this, it was all about, hey, imagine if players owned their assets. Hey, imagine interoperability. Imagine all these things. Do any of these things even matter nowadays? Like, does that even like, do you get feedback of like, oh yeah, I own something? Is it that, or is it more of like, hey, I just want to play a great game. I want to have fun. Sure, like if I own it, great. If I'm able to trade it, great. But it's not anymore what the forefront was for all of us, several years ago.
Uh, I've been pretty vocal about this for a long time. I was very early to say interoperability doesn't make sense to me. I don't think anybody really wants to build somebody else's game as much as they want to build their own. And so that really is how do I extract your players into my ecosystem? Although it was, that was kind of the promise. There's a lot of these concepts that I've been very much kind of, I would say, ahead of, saying that like I think Web3 gaming is more of a conduit to a way to gamify markets, to kind of bring traditional investing to a level that anybody can play with at any given time, that's completely liquid. And NFTs do that a long time ago. I shouldn't say never. The NFT mints on Magic Eden were very different than the buying I think all those were. And so yeah, I would say that I think my thesis of Web3 gaming hasn't changed a lot over the last probably 2 years. I think that the market is starting to catch up a little bit more. I shouldn't say the market, but I think that we need to, Axie was the best and worst thing ever for Web3 gaming, right? We all of a sudden saw people literally quitting their jobs to just come play games, and they got paid for it. And that created this distorted reality of what Web3 gaming can be. And that will be very difficult to ever be replicated, because the first time it happens, nobody knows how to react. And it's the biggest thing ever. And liquidity gets pumped in, and then liquidity gets drained. And all of a sudden now we're left going, how can we repeat that? And I'll be honest, that was something I wanted to do. We had a token. This is funny. We had a token that, HXD at peak was like a $350 million market, fully diluted value. We go look at now, and a market cap of about half of that, because we're about probably 35% of that. So $100 million market cap and a $350 million fully diluted. We had the biggest, Laudio was the biggest token launch ever. I haven't looked at it in a week or so, but it was sub 3 million market cap. Like, we're talking like we as Honeyland, just one of 100 projects, reached a market cap of 100 million, after being live for 9 or 10 months. And now, or 7, 8, 9, 10 months, whatever it was when we reached that. And now you have the thing that took all of crypto Twitter mindshare, and it's cash in, cash out, and on to the next thing. Like, nobody cares about, and I do think that's a game. I think that's what people were playing the game there. They wanted to get rewarded, and there's all of that. But the game was, how much could I earn? Could I reach on the leaderboard? Can I be a part of the conversation? And I just think Web3 gaming wants very different things than what Web2 gaming wants. I keep this list that I'd made. I'll point it up. So I think these are the things that that Web3 gaming is, and that we should. What I've been. I put this list together about a year ago, and it continues to be. Actually, just ahead of Breakpoint last year, I had a talk that I was kind of talking about, is Web3 gaming doomed to fail, or is it inevitable, right? And what I think Web3 gaming is, I think we need. I have in parentheses perceived financial opportunity. So there's got to be some way to either win or lose. There's financial opportunity in it. Risk versus reward decisions, rapid and frequent outcomes, volatility. I think is something that we absolutely want. Tribalism and community. Jackpots and asymmetric wins, so the ability to spend $1 to win 100, I think is really important in Web3 gaming. Cultural relevance, some, but not too much agency. We want a little bit to choose the token we buy, but ultimately the market is going to kind of be the bigger driver of, are we right or wrong? Streamable, shareable content, and anyone, and in parentheses, including poor people, can get rich. And I think those are the elements that I think really are what Web3 gaming has become about. And if we can put a really fun interface on top of that, and that's what I continue to, as I go back to this stuff, like, how do I put those at the forefront of what people want, and then back into it a really, really fun game or game theory around that can unlock all of those. And I think this is part of what Hive Clash does that's really, really cool, right? It takes not only utility for Honeyland into Hive Clash, but it has a lot of these. It's shareable, streamable content. It is the ability to have like a lot of volatility. It is clearly risk versus reward coming into different battles. And what I want to do is, have things where you could literally like risk and have tournaments where it's a PvP tournament where every time you defeat the other player, you take their bees, and every time you lose yours. Very similar to kind of the BR1 thing where it's, kind of pay to spawn, kill to earn. This would be like real stakes in a tournament style. Basically, put up your bee to spawn into the tournament. And as long as you keep moving, you're taking other people's bees. And as soon as you lose yours. And so I think there's some strategy there. But I think that's ultimately what I'm looking for. I do think Web3 games can look like Web2 games, where you have players and characters and progressions. And, it doesn't have to be pump fun where there's just clicking, or, Magic Eden where it's just NFTs. I do think those check a lot of the boxes of what Web3 games are today. But what I want to see is, how do we take those and turn those into something that has a character and a progression and levels and feels like a real Web2 game. But the way that this means people are willing to pay, as long as there's perceived financial upside or opportunity, they're willing to actually lose money, just like a casino. The EV is always negative when you walk in those doors. Every fucking time it is negative. But millions of people walk in every single day because there is a small amount of negative EV and a guaranteed amount of happiness. And as long as you can provide a guaranteed amount of happiness and financial opportunity, people are willing to take negative EV. And then you have a sustainable economy, where it's not just about players want to earn money and project needs to earn money, and there's nothing in between that can be an invisible expense or reward to playing that game. And so that's what I think. When we fast forward 2 to 3 years, we're going to see things that look much more mature in terms of really combining Web3 and Web2 gaming, as opposed to just tokenizing assets in a Web2 game, which I don't think I think it puts all the focus on the financial opportunity and kind of removes the happiness and the other things that are needed to make a game work.
Man, you got like a jam-packed answer there, and I'm trying to figure out which way to take it, right? You mentioned one part where you said like when like can Web3 games be like Web2 games? Can they feel like that, right? And it makes me want to ask you, like, do you think that the tech is there yet for it to be feeling like a Web2 game? Is it seamless enough yet? Like, I say this because I think whereas you might be there, the rest of the space might be there. And essentially, we all in the space keep crying about, we just need one game to hit. And I'm like, sure, one game could hit, But what's going to happen is that if one game hits and they start trickling and finding more about other games and the tech is just not there, it's going to be like one of those things of like straight up disaster, because like we all know it's first impressions to a lot of things. So do you believe that the tech is there to make things seamless, to trade, to buy, to earn, to play games, go through ecosystems, not just alone what Honeyland has built?
Yeah, I absolutely believe the tech is there. I mean, and let's be clear. Not every GTA is a legend in the space of Web 2 games. Like, not everything needs to be AAA. Candy Crush is one of the biggest games in the world. Farmville is one of the biggest games in the world, right? What are we talking about? The ability to connect a wallet to. So we're not talking about like graphically and can we like now we're just talking about, can we connect a wallet and can we have, of course, we're already doing that. And I do think that the cool thing with Web3 is, this is a question that I asked myself from a very early kind of time as I started to get, and I asked a lot of other Web3 game builders, like, and I would say, what is it that you're building? Or I would ask myself, what is it that we're building that is uniquely unlocked by Web3, by blockchain and cryptocurrency, that could not be done in a Web2 environment? Because, and there's some things that, we may trick ourselves. So I could, I do think that the idea of PvP, microtransactions, all that is uniquely unlocked by cryptocurrency. So the idea that you can go out on a mission and you can earn a small amount of money couldn't be done if it's cash, right? We can't PayPal you 3 cents every time you come back from a mission, but we can give you a cryptocurrency which traded on the blockchain is incredibly efficient as an exchange of value within an ecosystem. I think that is uniquely unlocked with Web3. Now he's got to start thinking like, I look at something like poly markets, the idea of a liquidity pool betting market or prediction market. Uniquely unlocked, could not exist poly market, a liquidity-based like ticketing system where you're owning a portion of a bet against all other players without a liquidity pool. And liquidity pools need cryptocurrency to exist, right? I think that, so I just believe a lot of that stuff where when we said, you talked about ownership, this is something of digital assets. I said this from an early time. Ownership does not matter. If I shut down my servers, your NFT still goes to zero. In the same way that if a Web2 game shuts down their servers, whatever money you had invested in that goes to zero, right? And so that's the exact same. What changes is the transferability of that asset. In a Web2 game, you don't have the freedom to be able to sell that to another player because it's gated by the servers. In this, it steps out, those assets live outside of the servers, so they're tradable. That is the big thing of Web3 gaming. And so now it unlocks player-to-player marketplaces in an entirely new way. It unlocks secondary marketplaces and games that can be built on top of the assets that are earned within other games. And so I think we need to start really thinking about what is unlocked. And if we do that in a really good way, where I kind of started, can Web3 3 games catch up to the tech, or are we ready for it? I think we have so much more available that we can pull from. And there are so many just brilliant infra plays within Web3 right now across the entire, not just Solana, but entire Web3 ecosystem, that tapping into that and starting to get really creative. We have a community member who's actually in the call right now, Zelax, who he's a data nerd. He's an analytics nerd, a spreadsheet warrior, and has been incredibly valuable to me and our team on a lot of what we're doing. And we built Flipside Crypto dashboards, and he's kind of helped. He just got into this on his own and said, I want to take this on. And he's building some of these crazy dashboards that are like so useful, pointing out all these different things. It was always sitting out there. We just needed somebody to connect the dots. And blockchain made that available that isn't available in like a Web2 game, because that information doesn't live in Decentraland, right? Like it's gated. And so I think this idea, we need to start thinking about, not can we catch up to the tech, but how can we actually do things that would never be possible? My goal isn't to catch up to Web2 gaming. Web2 gaming exists. My goal is to take things that exist in Web2 gaming and that people just wish, man, I wish we could also do this. I wish we could trade our assets, or I wish we could have microtransactions, or I wish we could have access to the data of what's taking place and go extrapolate that into making new decisions strategically or financially or whatever it is. And so I think that's the big thing here, is not only are we caught up to Web 2, I think that we have so much more available that we're actually just being lazy. And this is my big challenge. Like, what is uniquely unlocked by your project that is not possible in Web 2? If the answer is nothing, then what are we doing? Let's just build in Web 2. It is way easier, right? So if we're going to take on the additional challenges, let's make sure that we're bringing additional benefit or opportunity to the space as well.
Yeah, I almost want to like ask you. I mean, like for me, like that last statement from you is the lazy aspect of it. I almost go deeper into like poor marketing, right? Like I think that like if you look at 90% of the space, they're all focused on crypto Twitter, right? Like it's crazy, like, you know, because for me as a marketer, like, you know, I'm very much on other platforms, like constantly studying, especially in gaming, right? Like I'm constantly looking at, you know, Facebook gaming being one of the largest, right? Like why is that dominating? How does it dominate? And like why is there no, you know, Web3 games here just have such presence? And you look at, you know, other like channels, ads, and ads are just so big in gaming, whereas in Web3 gaming it's been something where it's like, yeah, you don't do ads, man, you don't do it. I'm like, yes you do. You have to do ads. Like if you don't understand that, then you're gonna fail. And it's like, no, let's just focus on crypto Twitter. And I'm like, no one cares about your 100,000 followers, your, you know, 1.5 2.5k impressions. Like it doesn't move the needle. That's just for token talk if you really want to talk about it. And I think like, man, it's the laziness, but also the lack of like, even founders like that just don't hire properly. Like they constantly, like for me, I constantly see so much inexperience in the space. And I love that crypto Twitter, like I love that Web3 has given people the ability to fire start their careers, right? Again, I come from a Web2 space. I spent 15 years in commercial investment banking. I had to work 15 years to get to somewhere, right? Whereas in Web3, like I could have just been in the community and 3 months later I got promoted to CM, and 3 months later I'm the CMO, and then you never know, I might be like building and stuff like that. So Web3 has been beautiful in that aspect. It is cool that you're able to, but you do also skip some very important steps to how a business works and how to do partnerships, how to do marketing, to making sure that there's distribution. And what does distribution even mean? So I think like, man, I want to just kind of like put the icing on that topping, is that like marketing has been something that's been lackluster.
Well, I will also say I was here for the Web 2 revolution, right? Or evolution. I was, you know, my first business I launched back in early 2000s. And, you know, so I watched a lot of that stuff grow. I was teaching and I built a marketing product that I did social media for residential real estate agents. And I would go out and literally, I remember having like seminars that I would teach that were about like, what is LinkedIn and what is Facebook and what is Twitter and how to use them and how to set up an account and how to use them in your business. And that was kind of Web 2, where you first had this kind of read write. It wasn't just a write ability within the web, right? And then you fast forward, and now you look at what something like Amazon has done, or what Shopify has done, or what, like, everybody can launch a business overnight on Shopify now. You can turn an idea into a product, into sales in almost, in fact, I did this. I got bored with my existing kind of SaaS business that I built, and bored from it was just hyper efficient. It was making money. It didn't have a lot of room to grow anymore because we had like a fixed number of clients and we had incredible market share. And so I was kind of with my brother. I was like, hey, let's go launch an e-commerce store. And this was because he was my business partner. I'd launched the original business with my brother. And Justin, one of my co-founders now from Honeyland, he launched an e-commerce store of his own. He was taking a course at like a college, same thing, just kind of for fun. And wanted to learn about e-commerce. He launched this like neon sneaker store and was crushing it. I was like, I want to do that. And so I went and launched a product. We launched Donald Trump bobbleheads. This is back in 2016. No political affiliation, just we thought it was a fun product. And we started accidentally selling like thousands of these things. And we eventually sold, by the time the business was done, we sold over 100,000 bobbleheads. That year alone, we sold about 60,000 bobbleheads in that kind of election year. It was wild, this crazy, crazy thing. But it was done literally over a weekend. My wife went out of town in 2016. She came back and I was like, by the way, I launched a store. And then a week later, I was like, oh, by the way, this thing's actually doing business. And then, you know, a month later, it was wild. And so that's kind of how, and by the way, Honeyland also happened over a weekend where my wife went out of town. She took my girls to go see her parents. She came back. I was like, oh yeah, I did it again. We're going to launch a business, a Web3 game. And so, but it is that simple. That's, to your point, anybody with ambition can get into Web3. There are so few barriers to entry, but we will watch this space mature and we will build the Amazons and the Shopifys and these big major brands and games. But these major e-commerce brands couldn't exist when it was 2005 and nobody was willing to put their credit card into an online account to buy something online, right? Zappos kind of had to be the first person to solve this idea of like fast shipping, exchanges and returns, online customer service. Like they kind of unlocked everything that led to the e-commerce revolution. We will have that moment in Web3 gaming. and then Shopify kind of turned everybody into a builder. I think that, you know, there's a lot of tools already that turn a lot of people into builders or creators. But so I'm patient with this evolution, but I do want this type of conversation, Jorge, and what you're doing to continue to unfold, right? Where we can not just say, hey, everything is good and it's inevitable and we're going to make it, but that we can really critically think about what does this look like 2 years from now and 4 years from now, and how do the decisions that we're making affect that, and how do we actually build something sustainable? Because as much fun as the Web3 casino is today, and it is a ton of fun, there is more pain than good for most people when you actually zoom out. At some point, most people have experienced negative experiences that far outweigh the positive. And we need to shift that around. We need to make it so that more people have positive experiences than negative. And I think how we do that is we allow a financial component to everything we're doing, but we make the primary component something else, one of those invisible things of convenience or happiness or service, right? Like that it's got to do something that is beyond just the financial wins. And so we can have financial wins, but we need something else in there that is an invisible element that moves us along. Efficiency, any of that can work.
Yeah, one of my favorite comments, someone just said, message to wife, don't leave this guy by himself, which makes me want to ask, does your wife now not want to leave for the weekend anymore? Because
ironically enough, she is taking the girls back to go see her parents July 1st through 11th. And so I literally have 10 days by myself.
Oh,
and actually, maybe he doesn't know it yet, but fly up to Vancouver to go see my studio lead. I might spend a couple days with him, crash at his place, and just do some kind of like, you know, heavy duty stuff together. And but yeah, so
I'm gonna say we got to get you one of those video cameras so we could be a fly on the wall just to hear the conversations that week of like what crazy idea that you get, right? I think that, you know, first of all, it's really cool. But the next thing about that, right, I think is, you know, I know we got less than 5 minutes before we got to wrap up here, but I want to say is like entrepreneurship is something in Web3 again that has the ability to really be more of an entrepreneur than you do in the Web2 space because of the public and because of the ideas and because of being able to get more people rally behind you. Whereas in Web2, it's a little tougher to really kind of like go out of the box the way that Web3 allows you to go to the box, because you could really find kind of product market fit really, really, really fast in Web3 in the sense of, hey, token and all this stuff. But I think like what you're harping on again is again, like what are those fundamentals to all of this, right? How do you look at fundamentals, all of it, between building a business, between being an entrepreneur, between being yourself as well, like family and all that stuff. Like all this stuff takes into place that not many people understand. Like not many people actually sit down and analyze something. And I think like I analyze it myself a lot of times, and I'll be like, oh my God, like I got to slow down sometimes. And it's like, oh my, we're doing a lot. And again, it's a fast-paced job. Like Web3, man, you miss a weekend on crypto Twitter, you might have missed like 5 years of your life, right? Like, you know, James Wynn all of a sudden got liquidated. Oh my God. Like, it's like the great market makers now control the market. I mean, we've been saying that for a long time. We know that. Come on, guys. But it's like things like this that get people like, oh, I didn't know. I didn't realize that. I'm like, yeah, well, what did you think when we had institutional money coming into this space? Like us, you know, degens would still have the ability to move things. So I think it's really cool to hear, and it's really cool to see. You know, first off, congrats on the success. Congrats to where you are. I think we're gonna have to definitely run it back, because I think you got another cool thing you guys are working on the side, and we're gonna have to maybe dedicate another space to another stream to talk about what else you guys have working on. I guess this next 10 days that you go away, we're gonna have to schedule that stream so that we can get all the alpha on what else you guys are working there behind the scenes. But it's been awesome. Appreciate you coming on. Appreciate everything that Honeyland's doing. And I'll end it with this. I was just at Accelerate in Solana. I worked a t-shirt and shorts every single day. Again, I come from 15 years of working in Wall Street, where I wore a suit and tie every single day of my life. Suit and tie, like every single day. And I walked into Accelerate, and I walked out of Accelerate, and I went to a store, and I bought like nicer clothes. And I was like, holy crap. There is people here now, investors here from down the street, because we were down the street from Wall Street. I said down the street, that are here to find out what Web3 is, what crypto is. Now we have to change our narrative of speaking, our narrative of even presenting ourselves. What is it that we're building, right? We can't, like, we have to take that degen talk out of it, because now these guys are here to see what the business is. What is that fundamentals look like? What is it really? Does it have, is it viable, right? You just saw Circle, have a crazy IPO. Congrats to them. But what does that now do? It opens up the doors even further to what possibilities are within crypto. It has now legs, that it has legs that are now walking. That now, because they are walking, we're going to see other people coming into the room, and we saw that accelerate. And it goes back to, hey, like, what is your LinkedIn presence? What is your other social media presence? Because there are people now speaking from other sectors of the world trying to inquire where we will be. What is it? Why do they need to get involved? And I'll say this, I'll end it with this, and I'll let you have a final touch too as well. 2013, in banking, we used to always say, like, fake internet money. 2017, the R&D departments were like, hey, what are you guys hearing about this stuff? 2025, every single bank has a crypto desk, every single one of them, right? We saw that happen. We're seeing it even in gaming. Sony has a chain. All these things are happening once again. It's happening. The evolution, we're no longer early, right? As we all like to say. And so I think the message now, really from the past hour, is, again, long-term vision, long-term plan, understand your audience, work with your audience, work with the community, and just build something that has sustainability. Build something that is going to be long-term, so that has the ability for you to be able to say, at the end of the day, this is what true success looks like.
Yeah, I think it's all there. You're absolutely right. Like, it is going to continue to get bigger and bigger. And I think my thing is focus on those invisible rewards. How do we provide utility and happiness and convenience and all those things through Web3 that's uniquely unlocked by Web3? And then I think that's when we can start to have much stronger financial positions for the businesses that are running the products, which ultimately create better products and better experiences. Jorge, the thing I want to end on is just saying thank you. I've been in Solana since day one. I have been a Solana maxi since that time. I still am. And but we always felt like we kind of had to do this alone. That Solana was there to support us from the infra side, and there was an engaged community and liquidity, but there wasn't a direct connection between, like, the support that Solana was giving to its games, and there were things that Solana was doing. But I think bringing you guys in, this has been really cool, and I appreciate what you guys are doing. Can you give me any alpha on the Solana Games Pass?
On the Game Pass?
Yeah, the Game Pass. What do I need to know about it? I think we're doing something with you guys on the Games Pass. Is that right?
Well, for next season, I haven't announced anything yet, so okay. This will be true alpha. But yeah, I think, like, look, huge success to the first season, and I think that 48,000 NFT minted, over $30,000 in prize pools from people just donating to get involved. I think we kind of sparked a whole different era within Solana, that people were looking to get involved. Even at Accelerate, people outside of gaming were trying to figure out how to get involved in gaming. And I'll say this, I think gaming is an intersection for everything in Web3. Everything is gamified. There's ways that games could work with protocols. There's ways that games could work with anybody in the Web3 space. It's just finding that ability on where it makes sense. And I think that everyone has that ability to make it make sense. It's just hopping on a call and saying, hey, but a lot of the Web3 space doesn't know about gaming. And that's the biggest thing, is how do we educate them about gaming and what really gaming is? So Season Pass 1, which is what the next release will be, is the one that we're all pretty truly excited about internally, because we've teamed up with some pretty major players even now, even infrastructure plays that are going to give us the ability to really see more on chain, make it more questing, make it be able to play games, play within the games, quest within the games, but even further, interact with the outside world of gaming, and that's in Web3 within Solana, and work with the mega giants. And I can't name all the mega giants, but we all know the mega giants that are in Solana. That's what I'm really truly excited for, because we need to have new faces, new users really looking at gaming and how they could work on a gamified aspect of it. But yeah, man,
I think centralizing that attention a little bit too really helps. I think that's one of the biggest threats to Web3 gaming right now, is how fragmented it is. Everybody has their own token, their own NFT collections, their own logins, their own, it's just like, it is, every single thing is like its own console almost. And so, like, how do we figure out, this is what made console games so beautiful, is that anybody could basically create a cartridge that you could put into a console and you could play it, right? And so it was one console that allowed you to play every game. And I think right now every game is its own console. And the more that we can do to kind of consolidate and defragment that into a single, and this is where I would, one of my cautions would be launching tokens for every single game, I think is a real danger moving forward. And that trying to find more ecosystem tokens, or even just leveraging Sol or USDC, or kind of, more, endless liquidity tokens, I think are going to be maybe a bigger part of gaming moving forward than just trying to build that value. Anyways,
and we didn't even touch on, the Solana mobile. We didn't even touch on all the tech and hardware being built on Solana, right? These are the type of things, again, like, Jambo and all these other things that exist already, that are very much already breaking through a lot of walls. But the disconnect, again, because there's so many things happening in Web3. It's so hard to keep up with everything happening in Web3. There's not one centralized news channel. Like, as much as people try to launch news channels, it's hard to really be able to even keep track on all of it. So I think, like, man, it's definitely evolving. Corey, give us the plug. Play Honeyland on Twitter. How do we download the game? How do we go play the game? What do we need to know the alpha to make sure that the next 30 days we are locked in?
Yeah, so the easiest is honey.land. That's our website. It's got access to everything. You can find all of our socials at the very bottom of the page. You can find, you'll find us if you search Honeyland in the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS Store, the Saga dApp Store. So you'll find us there. If you are more of a web player, play.honey.land. You can play as a web app. It's beautiful. We've done an incredible job. And so super fun game. Right now, we're, again, we've onboarded, we're part of Gap Season 10 with YGG. We've onboarded a ton of new players. So there's a lot of new blood and energy. And our Discord is absolutely incredible. We've got the best modded team in the world, and just a really cool community vibe. So, would love to have anybody who's interested come in there, tag me and say hi if you hop into our Discord, and or come find me in the game somehow. I'm Filbert Center everywhere.
There you go, people. It's so easy that you could either play it mobile or browser. It's Play Honeyland. That's how easy it is. Send it to your friends. Send it to your kids. Call your ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend. Send it to them. Tell them that you want to play Honeyland. Hey, it's that easy. Corey, man, it's been awesome chat. Appreciate you coming on. Until the next one, we're going to run it back. We're going to talk about what else you guys got going on. Once again, thank you, everybody, for coming in, and till the next one.
Thanks, Jorge. Cheers, brother.